Yesterday we had our most recent consultation with our oncologist, and that follows a sufficient healing from my second lung surgery. And what it was supposed to do was give us a sense of whether the surgeries kind of worked, and were there any surprises. And based on a couple of things, one, based on the fact that my health continues to improve, and you can see from this walk and this video that that's actually the case, but also more importantly, the analysis they did on the actual tumor that was taken showed that although yes, it was cancerous, nothing had spread, especially to the lymph nodes. If you recall, I think I mentioned with the first surgery, there was just a hint that something was starting to bubble with the tumor. But in general, the signs were not there that aggressive things were happening with the tumor. And the way the oncologist put it, this classic statements from people like him, there is no evidence that any further treatment is needed at this point. It kind of sounds really wishy-washy, but it's about the best you can hope for in terms of the conclusion from this type of thing. There is no evidence that bad things are actually happening. Uncertainty and certainty is pretty important to all of us. And in fact, most of us, we go through life learning about how to determine or answer specific questions or big questions in a very defined way, so that we are certain that we are doing the right thing. And in fact, even in our careers and things, a lot of things that we do are defined by the certainty that we achieve. Whether it's trying to build a great product or make a lot of money in the market, what have you. So certainly, certainty as a concept sort of flows all around you. But what happens when that just disappears, and the most important thing in your life is now fundamentally defined by uncertainty? That is, they can throw all of the specialists and the treatments that they have at their disposal, and in the end, you don't know. They can't tell you for sure what's going to happen, but in many ways, they can still give you their best judgment and their best recommendation. And that's really the key to all of this, and where I kind of focus on. Is the physician or the people taking care of you doing their best to bring all the information, all the experience, all the science that they have at their disposal? Are they bringing that in and trying their best to give you the best possible judgment and recommendation that they have in such uncertain and complex moments? I'm a little fortunate. There's actually a lot of similarities between the way the medical profession deals with their uncertainty as engineers do. And of course, that's my background. If you ask a structural engineer who might have worked on a building like the ones you see all around us, they're all very talented people, certainly at least in this country, and but none of them will be able to tell you exactly how it might behave if all of a sudden a massive storm hits it, or there's some sort of an accident where something gets damaged. All of these things, once it happens, once the bad things happens, there's all sorts of things we can use to deduce what happened, what was the internal cause, but the prediction is fundamentally impossible. And it's pretty much the same with medicine. And as much as I would like to hear from my medical team that I'm in the clear because there is no evidence that anything bad is happening, I know that is at best an optimistic thought, which is important, which is terribly important. We should never lose that. But in the end, coming to grips with how the medical profession deals with uncertainty was critically important for me, and it remains so. So why did I take you through this long, drawn-out comparison of medicine and engineering? Reality is I'm feeling pretty good. Think about it. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with something that initially gave me a survival chance of about 70% for 5 years. 5 years. Not survival rate to the a nice long life for 5 years. And then I went through a whole bunch of treatments, and that number of 70% dwindled down to 10. So technically, based on the disease that I have in my current situation, I have a 10% chance of going for 5 years. That's a pretty scary number. But again, I am absolutely fortunate that I have some background to really have a sense of what that number means. It doesn't mean much. So, the main thing that I take from this episode is not so much that percentage, and maybe it nudged it to 15%. All those numbers are ugly. But I have 3 months of absolute clear sailing. That's because my next thing is a CT scan that will take place 3 months from now. And from that point on, every 3 months, they're going to put me inside a big tube and take all sorts of detailed pictures of my insides. And they're going to keep checking to see if any blobs are coming in. If I remain blob free, then every 3 months I have a renewed lease in life. Remember the last video I talked a little about how time collapses? This is sort of going in the opposite direction. As much as time is collapsing to discrete points every once in a while, I am now entering the stage where the process pretty much assures me that as long as the pictures come out okay at these regular scans, I have 3 months of peace. If at any given point, of course, it's not, those pictures show something, then time resets and I go through it again. But even 3 months, I'll take that. 3 months takes me into the summer months in this country. 3 months is also long enough for us to plan some activities and just get back to doing things that we had put aside, like visiting our son in Montreal, maybe taking on some more interesting gardening activities up north, or just continuing to explore this city, this wonderful city that we're now part of as urban hipsters living in a condo. All of that stuff is now possible for 3 months, and that's great. And we will cross the next bridge when we get to it. But for now, I think we're just going to cruise. and see how great life could be. Now, my final thought really comes down to these videos. I'm going to give it some thought. I do like the idea of continuing to explore what it's like to just live with this illness. Keep telling people, I'm not fighting for my life. I'm fighting for a life worth living in many ways, which is another perspective that really, really helps me a lot. And that is something that I think do translate well. That is something that does translate well to video, and perhaps I will explore different dimensions of that. As long as a couple of people still want to see it, no sweat off my back. I find this all terribly fun and interesting from a pastime point of view. So with that, thank you for joining me again, and I will see you again very, very soon. Bye.